So how do you achieve more with the same time and resources that you have today? I want to talk to you about customer experience and how, in a lot of ways, it appears as though most of us are misapplying our resources to the wrong things. I'm going to give you a crash course in the power of moments. Because here's the fascinating thing. Research shows that when it comes to dealing with customer issues, we spend 20% of our time trying to delight customers, 80% of our time trying to fix problems. Now, it seems that human nature is always geared towards trying to deal with issues and fix problems. But those people that talk about problems, those people that complain, those people that give you the lowest scores on your surveys, apparently research shows only provide you with about 1 out of every $10 of your revenues. But those people that are happy with the products and services that you provide tend to give you 9 out of $10. But we're only spending 20% of our time looking after them and 80% of our time dealing with the squeaky wheel. Now, this doesn't mean that we don't deal with the real serious issues, but we've got to be very careful. Because if you look at time, and these blue dots represent events. When a customer is dealing with us, and let's say this is the life cycle of that particular transaction. And if it's in the service drive, it's from the time that they schedule your vehicle for service, they bring it in, they talk to the advisor, they wait in the waiting room, you go over the multi-point inspection, they wait for the repairs, they pay, they go home, whatever all those things are. These blue dots represent events. And their experience between positive and negative is this dotted line. And this is one of the worst things. Obviously, down here would be the worst thing that can happen if everything is negative. However, what we tend to do is we aim for satisfaction. And satisfaction means that there's some positive, there's some negative, but we tend to bounce around the midline. And then in the end, the customer is just whelmed. Not overwhelmed in a positive way, maybe not underwhelmed, and we're happy if we can come out of it unscathed and that everything was just fine. This is very dangerous because this does not lead to greater customer happiness and loyalty and advocacy and all the things that help us to build our business. And so our challenge is the research, and there's this great book, if you want to dig deeper into this and say, how do I do these things? The Power of Moments by Dan and Chip Heath is extremely insightful in trying to help us understand that there's a few things that really matter when it comes to customer experience. And that the theory is that customers don't measure their experience based on the average across this period of time. Instead, what they do is they remember those times when they had peaks. My wife will tell you when it comes to a service drive, one of the peaks was literally when we took delivery of our vehicle. The service manager came out, had a chat with us, introduced himself, and gave us confidence and encouragement that whatever issues we had in the future, we could count on them to take care of it. That was a peak. Now, if for whatever reason something goes wrong, like we leave a stain on the headboard, some grease on the steering wheel, whatever it is on their vehicle, that's going to result in a pit. And what you want to do, no question, is you want to avoid the pits. But you know what? The fascinating part is you recognize when there's a pit. You can feel it. You can sense it. And they're usually individual to that customer. They're not systemic across everything that we're doing. These are the kind of the systemic things that are going on. Little pluses, little positives, and little negatives. But these little guys down here, these are called the potholes. And the research says, don't worry about the potholes. They're going to happen, but customers don't tend to count that against you. Definitely the pits are an issue. But when we create a peak, much more memorable, and especially the endings. So here's how it often will go. Like normal, we have these things, then maybe there's a pit, but then there's a peak. It's really good, and then maybe there's a little bit like this, but then there's an ending. If you deal with these things effectively on a one-to-one basis with a customer, and they don't always happen, but you focus heavily on creating these peaks, something memorable. And it usually comes down to a way to elevate their experience. You provide them insights, or there's a moment of pride, or even a moment of connection. When I talked about the service manager, my wife and her vehicle, that was a moment of connection where she connected more with the dealership and gained confidence. And the research suggests that if we focus on peaks and endings, we will elevate, we will heighten the customer experience and increase the amount of loyalty and retention of customers. And instead of spending only 20% on delighting customers, we've got to kind of reverse this and spend 80% of our time and energy building those areas that deliver 90% of our revenues. Think about it today, leaders. Look at your departments. What are you doing today to delight customers? Are you focused on fixing problems? Or are you focused on taking the best care of your customers, recognizing that some of those other things are going to happen, deal with those, but only spend about 20% of your time and energy down there? And figure out, do we really want that customer? Don't spend all your time trying to salvage people who maybe just generally are disgruntled. Focus more of your energy on those people that deliver the majority of your revenues, and you will not only make more money, you will increase customer loyalty, and you'll get a whole lot more raving fans.